People have been using that story to make like wisdom-like decisions for like generations since then. And I don't know if I think I shared this before, but when I was in third grade, I had a teacher who did that. And it was over a pencil. I was writing, had a pencil, whatever we were doing, put the pencil down, and I remember this because it was like, I don't get it, and put the pencil down to either or do something else, went to get the pencil, and my friend, Jacques, French guy, he had the pencil. And I'm like, dude, that's my pencil. And he's like, no, this is my pencil. And I'm like, no, that's my pencil. And it's not like we were fighting over the pencil, but we were fighting over the pencil. And the teacher, her name is Miss Ficarella, third grade, she comes in, and she's like, hey, let me tell you this story. And she tells us the story of Solomon and threatening to slice the baby in half. And she looks at us and she says, I'm going to break the pencil in half. And Jacques, I guess, was a lot quicker than me because he said, no, don't break the pencil in half, give it to Floyd. And I'm sitting there thinking, are you going to stab me with the pencil? I don't get the correlation of the story. And she's like, the baby who threatened to split in half and the one who didn't want the baby in half. And I'm like, I'm not pregnant. It wasn't sinking into me what she was trying to get across. And then she gave the pencil to Jacques, and I'm like, why did you give him my pencil? Is he pregnant? Does he get the pencil? It didn't sink in. There was the Apostle Paul, biblically educated, Solomon, educated by God. But here's the guy who, for me, personal favorite. And his name is Moses. How many of you guys remember the story of Moses? Personally, I like the Prince of Egypt version better than the Ten Commandments version, but Charlton Heston did a great job in the Ten Commandments. Now, here's what it says about Moses. In Acts chapter 7, it says, at that time Moses was born, and he was no ordinary child. For 3 months he was cared for in his father's house. When he was placed outside, Pharaoh's daughter took him and brought him up as her own son. Moses was educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was powerful in speech and action. Now, we just read where Solomon was educated in more than that, but he got direct revelation from God. Moses was taught the way all you guys that are graduating, the way you were taught, book learning. He had to learn all of these things. And the reason why it says all the wisdom of the Egyptians is because the Egyptians made some significant contributions to history, which all you guys learned in school that are graduating, but probably the day after you forgot and will probably never recall again. But Solomon had all this knowledge that God gave him. Moses had all this knowledge that he learned. And the reason it says he was powerful in speech and action is because Pharaoh was the king of Egypt. They were called pharaohs instead of kings. Moses was brought up in his house as a prince in his house, like Prince William and Harry, those guys, the way they were educated and all that stuff. And he was brought up in that house. And it says he was powerful in speech and action because when he spoke, it was with the authority of the Pharaoh and the entire governmental system of Egypt. And when he did something, it was with the authority of the Pharaoh and the entire government. So he was powerful in speech and action. Now, here's some of the things that he was educated in. He was educated in, how many guys have seen pictures of the pyramids? All right? The technology, we call it technology now, it wasn't that they used to build that. The surveying skills, the construction, the quarrying, made significant contributions to what even is used today. And just looking at the temples, the pyramids, the whole architectural genius, how they managed to do that. They didn't have cranes, right? They didn't have, we couldn't call a construction company. They didn't have extreme home makeovers, so it wasn't 6 days, move that camel, and then you see, the whole temple thing. They had to, do it literally manually and build the equipment that they used to do it. So their surveying, their construction skills, their quarrying skills, but they were also in math. Now, how many of you guys are math lovers? And not a single, one graduate, but okay. All right. Now, here's the deal. The Egyptians are said to have contributed, and it would make sense with all the things they did, they are contributed to the significant use of fractions and decimals in our current mathematical system, that's believed that first came from them. So you can either thank them or blame them, depending on how you did in your math class. But also, they had medicinal contributions that are still used today. In addition to that, some people believe that they contributed to the first known use of ships not like, hey, me building a raft and I'm going to float, but to carry multiple people and cargo, which would make sense as they were building the pyramids. Also, they are believed to have contributed to the creation of some of the first known peace treaties between nations. Also, they're believed to have been, and again, it's on the internet, so that means it's true, they are believed to have been the first world superpower. Now, not the first world dominating nation, but the first world superpower. So all of that wisdom, all of that knowledge that Moses had, he went through what you guys as graduates went through, just years of learning and book learning and knowledge and tests and all that stuff. And here's the problem. It was 40 years before he got to use any of it. It was 40 years before he could take all that learning that he had and begin to apply it in a significant way. I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And when I read that in my head, it sounds like, I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Take off your shoes. Yeah, I mean, it just, and it says, Moses trembled with fear and did not dare to look because he realized he was in the presence of God. If you walk up to a bush and it starts talking to you, obviously you're going to be in awe of what's going on. But here's the thing. He spent 40 years before he was able to use it, and then God called him and said, I have something for you to do.